establishment of a secret society in Britain, because Britain's been a real centre for this, a secret society called the Round Table, involving a guy called Cecil Rhodes, after which Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, was named. In 1919, the Versailles Peace Conference, the American members of this Round Table Secret Society, who just happened to be, merely coincidental of course, the main players behind the American government that went in and fought the First World War, met at the Hotel Majestic in Paris with the British members of this secret society, which, yet another coincidence, just happened to be the key members of the British war cabinet in the First World War. And they decided to start to create offshoot organizations which, working together, would constitute the secret government of the world, or a big chunk of it. The first of these organizations was set up in London in 1920, called the Royal Institute of International Affairs, also known as Chatham House. Again, these organizations are pyramids, with most people involved in them not realizing the real agenda. And all these organizations are projected at the world as this term that's emerged over the last 20 years, think tanks, debating organizations. In 1921 came the next in these organizations. The American version of the Royal Institute was known as the Council on Foreign Relations. Now, since 1921, virtually every president of the United States has been a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. The Royal Institute of International Affairs works to control British domestic and particularly foreign policy. Don't matter who's in, Labour or Conservative, same people run the show, which is becoming more and more obvious. And the Council on Foreign Relations in America is there to control and manipulate American, particularly foreign policy, but other policies also. After the Second World War, when we had more centralization of power, because we've had 2 wars in this century now, something must be done, this can't go on, what are they going to do about it? After the First World War, the world was more centralized in terms of power. After the Second World War, it was even more centralized. That was the game, that was the idea, the goal. 1954 came an organization which today is probably the key organization in this network, called the Bilderberg Group. Bilderberg Group met officially for the first time in 1954 at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland, under the chairmanship of a member of the Dutch royal family called Prince Bernhard, who has an interesting CV. He was, according to many published works, a member of the SS before the war, worked for German intelligence during the war, and then became a major shareholder of Shell Oil after the war. The present chairman of the Bilderberg Group is Lord Carrington, former British cabinet minister and foreign secretary when the mistakes were made that led to the Falklands War. He resigned as the result of those mistakes and was given the job as Secretary General of NATO. Nice work if you can get it. Lord Carrington and his buddy Henry Kissinger come up everywhere. They are 2 of the super gophers of this manipulation. They're not top of the pyramid people necessarily, though Kissinger is up there. They are people who go around manipulating into place the policies decided, playing one off against the other and such like. The Bilderberg Group, like all these others I talk about, have among their number the top people, and I mean the top people, in global politics. Not Fred Jones, MP for, Margate East or something. Prime ministerial, presidential, ministerial and leader of the opposition level, I'm talking about. The top people in global banking, the top people in the global multinational company network, in the global military. The Secretary General of NATO is always there. Indeed, it's a Bilderberg appointment, that post. The top people in the global media. The Bilderberg Group has a steering committee which meets all the time, monthly, usually in Britain, to discuss policy and keep this program going of centralization of power towards world government and stuff, which incidentally the European Union is a stepping stone towards. And then once a year it meets somewhere in the world in very strict secrecy and has a big conflab with loads and loads of people from around the world coming in. They try very hard even to keep quiet where they're meeting, never mind what they're actually discussing. And I had a series of amazing coincidences when I was writing the book And the Truth Shall Set You Free, for reasons I'll talk about when I come to the spiritual, which put me in the right place at the right time to see things happen or gather information. And one of those things happened in relation to the Bilderberg Group. Last June, I was invited to stay with a schoolteacher friend of mine in Switzerland. The trip had been arranged for about 6 to 9 months. The tickets had been organized. It was all set a long time in advance. About 5 days before I left for Switzerland, I got a letter, a kind of round-robin letter, from a journalist in America who works for an alternative newspaper and has dedicated his life, in effect, to chasing these organizations, particularly the Bilderberg Group, finding out who's involved, what the agenda is, what they're trying to achieve and stuff. And even he, who does it full time, often only finds out where they're meeting very late in the day. So I get this letter, and it said, I've found where the Bilderbergers are meeting this year. It's in Bergenstock, Switzerland, and it happened to be just down the road from where I was staying at the time I was staying there. Thank you, universe. So I turn up. It's 3 hotels, 3/4 of the way up this mountain at Bergenstock. $1,000 a night suites. I had a bag of sherbet lemons, as I recall.